This is a candidate forum. It is not a debate. It is a forum. The rules are fairly simple. There's 6 questions plus closing remarks, so there's a total of 7 questions. The questions were prepared in advance and forwarded to the 4 candidates. Each candidate will be given an opportunity to answer each question. Answers will be strictly limited to 3 minutes. We have a 30-second warning sign. We've arranged the candidates on the dais alphabetically as they appear on the City of Madison's website. We'll rotate who gives the first answer on the various questions, and all candidates will have an opportunity to rebut or correct any comments made by their opponents only during the 3-minute closing remarks. Who are you? Why do you want to be mayor? It's kind of a compound question. What is your overall vision for the city, and how does downtown fit into that vision?
My name is Richard Brown. Over the past 20 years, I've served this community. I have my strong fiscal background. I've been an auditor for the Legislative Audit Bureau, business manager for the Mendoza Mental Health Institution, budget and policy analyst for the state of Wisconsin, became the director of operation at Mendoza Mental Health Institution, worked as a Title I accountant, No Child Left Behind, with DPI, Department of Public Instruction. And currently, I am a systems accountant for Dane County's Controller's Office. As you can see, my strong background, my strong fiscal background, and my major thing that I want to do is hold the line on taxes. And that does a lot of things, and when we talk about tonight, you'll see a lot of things that hold the line on taxes. It's going to affect everything, a lot of things that we do. And we're going to do this through strong fiscal policy and partnerships and collaboration. I want to be your mayor because I've been placed in this situation just for a time like this. My background has done a lot of things. I've been a prison guard. I've been a police officer, a reserve police officer. So everything that actually touches us today, I've done, and I'm qualified, and I want to help our city. My vision for Madison is one Madison, one future. I believe that if we work together for the common good, and we're going to define that common good tonight. Work together for the common good, we're better. We're all better. Now, of course, I said my vision is one Madison, one future, and that's similar to my vision downtown. It's the exact same vision for downtown. I look at State Street, it's a thriving, growing community. Man, I'm so excited. I walk down State Street every day. I do my walk every day. I've been working for state government for a long time, and I left state government. But every time I work, my lunch break is from my office all the way down to the end of State Street. And what I see is I see a community of students. I see a community of baby boomers, millennials, a city of just everybody. It's all there, and it's a neighborhood. And we have to work together in collaboration. And my vision says, hey, I know what's going to happen. What's happening is it's just thriving. We're going to have an economic development boom down here that's just going to do everything because we have density, all these people, all these buildings, the hub's got all the buildings, and what's going to happen? I see downtown as being a commercial hub for entertainment and just all the things that we need to do. And so, my vision.
My name is Christopher Daly, and the reason that I'm running is not because I have a lot of influential or powerful friends who have told me that it's a good idea. It's not because it's a logical next career step for me to make. I'm running because I want to realize a vision of this city which is socially, economically, and environmentally sustainable. I want to work with the business communities in order to do this. I want to work with the nonprofit communities, and I want to utilize the dearth of talent and real social interest that exists here in Madison. I think that we can together work to solve some of these problems that are plaguing our state and national governments, and we can do it on the local level. And ultimately, that's what we've been left to do now. We see that the dialogue on the higher levels is becoming so polarized and leading us so far away from the fundamental values which our country holds dear. And I think especially in Madison, with our extremely generous heart, this is the place to do it. I think that we're positioned as a powerhouse within Wisconsin and within our region, and we kind of show the way. We are the leaders of the entire Wisconsin system. And so the businesses in the downtown, I think that they're going to play a vital role in achieving that vision of equality in employment and opportunities. And I think that it's going to take a lot of cooperation on the parts of both government and the business community. And that's something that I believe in very strongly, is that we as a species have reached this place, not through competition, but through cooperation. And that is how we will have to move forward now. You may have heard of my activism, which I engage in, and I feel very strongly about a number of issues. It's hard for me to pick just one because I see things as being really interconnected, everything, and that's what I strive to do in my work and in the cultural analysis that I carry out. If you can observe on online or in print exactly how I try to tie so many of these issues together, and I think that we become a bit too compartmentalized when we just kind of focus on our own issues. And so it's a broader vision, and it's something I'd like to leave the city a better place for the next generation. It's going to be my children and my grandchildren who will inhabit this city, and it's really for us now to decide exactly how the world is going to look. And so that's what I'm doing here tonight. And again, thank you very much.
I'm Bridget, Maniaci. I was the 2nd District Alderperson for 4 years for the Capital East District for James Madison Park, Kenny Park, Mansion Hill. I had served in the mayor's office as a press intern in 2006-2007. I was involved with putting together that first year of Freak Fest. I am a 5th generation Madisonian. My mom, Pat, is here in the audience. And so our family has been here for a long time. The parking lot to Whole Foods was the family farm once upon a time. I think you look at where the city's heading and the vision for it, and for me, the vision for running for mayor and where we need to go as a city is that we get to solutions. You look at the 2nd District, and it really kind of was Jane Jacobs' sidewalk ballet. And I was very proud to represent a district that had everything from fraternity and sorority students to $1 million lakefront mansions to the women and children shelter at Salvation Army. Renters, homeowners, public employees. It was a whole mix. And you look across the city, and there's many neighborhoods and places in the city where that's not the case in the neighborhoods. And so I think moving forward for the vision is that we get to a better mix where we have a lot of folks who live across the city who have access to the neighborhoods regardless of what your income is. I'm running for mayor because I think it's time for new leadership to step up. The city is very much changing. We really don't have cornfields left to expand into. The development patterns and history and how we've evolved as a city, we're getting to those geographic boundaries and limits. And so now we're about to hit this very real sort of 2nd generation point in our city. And we have to be smart, we have to be savvy, we can't just continue to build out, and we have to bring new ideas to the table. And so I think that the downtown very much comes into that. Having worked in many of the hot button issues downtown, I think downtown clearly is really driving economic development. I have many residents who are moving into my neighborhood coming off of the boom and growth of Epic, but I think it's important that it's not just about downtown, that we think about all the other parts of the city, because I don't know if perhaps I work just, when you're older, you work really hard for your district, and I feel like the Capital East District Corridor and the Edgewater have dominated the press, and now it's time we start looking at other parts of the city. We look at Park Street and the North Side and Cottage Grove Road, and all across the city we have so much opportunity.
I believe Madison can live up to its progressive values where equity actually defines every decision within City Hall. So I'm Scott Resnick. I'm a local entrepreneur here in town. Started a company that's located right outside of James Madison Park and now have 22 employees. I also am a member of the City Council. I've represented downtown and State Street for the last 4 years. And if my time on council is taught me one thing, if it's our neighborhoods, which is our heart, it's really our downtown, which is our soul. Because it's what happens in our downtown which sends a message to the rest of the community. It's when our downtown is struggling with issues of homelessness, when we're struggling with issues of employment, when it's our downtown that has other issues, it sends a message of what the rest of the community can do. And I truly believe that we're at a tipping point in our community. It's not only our issues of inequality that impact so much of our way of life, but even more so, it's the struggles that we have day in and day out to communicate. It's that City Hall has become a place where we no longer have channels of communication between our city, our county, our nonprofit, and our for-profit businesses. I believe that City Hall has become a place where we no longer have true conversations that we need to have to really step up to the challenges that our community faces. I believe that if we're all working together, standing unified, we can take on the challenges that our community presents. I'm running for mayor to talk about how we can be more collaborative, how we can address 21st century solutions with new ideas, and build upon the approaches that we see throughout our country to make Madison a better place to work, live, and play.
What do you think are the top 3 issues facing the city of Madison?
There's only one issue that's truly facing the city of Madison today, and it's the same issue that's facing cities all around the country. There is a significant danger in the economic system as it's being run today. There's a significant danger in the way that private banks are conducting business. With the stripping of the provisions in the Dodd-Frank bill that happened just this December, we are being set up as a country for a massive fall. Now, in case you don't know, the provisions which were stripped were those which kept the derivatives lending arms of banks separate from their creditors' deposits. And the creditors' deposits are now free to be mixed once again with the gambling that is going on part of these private entities. And so, regardless of all of the talk that happens up here tonight, regardless of all the talk about visions and the future, we're not going to be in a very good place if the market tanks again, unless we can distance ourselves from the private financial institutions which have led us astray that's not very long ago. The Dodd-Frank provisions were put in place after the 2008 financial crisis, and if we can look to Europe as an example, what happened there in Greece and in Ireland with the wholesale privatization, or the austerity plans which were presented for the wholesale privatization of public services after they were declared bankrupt, the countries, that we can see that that's the plan for us too. It's the plan that the far right has been pushing. They have been trying to make our state broke, and in turn our cities will be next. And so unless we can move towards a public banking model, one which would be able to separate commercial businesses' mortgages from the derivatives trading arms of these private banks, one which would be able to protect our citizens and reinvest in the people of Madison, then in a few years they're going to be coming for even the police and fire departments. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to see a private fire department on my property. So I think that it's always, Bill Clinton said it best in 1992, it's the economy, stupid. Like, this is what we're looking at. And it's something that's not being discussed very often because a lot of people, especially in the major political parties, are unable to discuss it because, of course, those are corporate parties. I am not a member of the Democratic Party, and I have not been. I see my time's up.
I kind of took the question 2 ways, in terms of the city as across the city, and then the city within City Hall. So the top 3 issues kind of facing the city at hand, I think, I look across the city and I think in a lot of ways we're hitting our growth wall. It has to do with our housing situation. Our vacancy rates are very low. Housing is getting more and more expensive. are having the tax base to provide equitably for our public services across the city, and especially with transportation and public services is really stretched thin. And then also, I think a really huge issue facing the city right now is schools and youth services. If we can't have strong schools, if folks, when they get to that point when their child's entering kindergarten and they make the decision, do they stay in the city of Madison or do they leave for the surrounding communities, that's a real problem. Because we need to be building the city to attract and retain that next 30-year resident of the city. And so I think that those are kind of the three major issues facing the city at hand. Facing the city of Madison in terms of within City Hall, I think the issues really are the state of relationships between the mayor's office and other institutions, organizations. You look at the fight that just happened with the budget, with the Common Council. I'm very concerned about relationships between the county executive's office and the mayor's office as they stand today. I also think that the issues facing City Hall have a lot to do with having the resources to accomplish goals and prioritizing those goals. It's one thing to have folks come to the table as citizens in committee and work on issues and then have those initiatives don't go nowhere and nothing gets picked up. I have some fantastic interns on my team, and they started looking into the sustainability plan. And there's this great 60-page report that was passed in 2011. And the website is not updated. There's no initiatives that have come out of that. And it's really frustrating to watch. And then I think there's something very much an issue facing City Hall and the decisions within City Hall, which is there's a real lack of diversity to the decision makers at the table. It's race, it's socioeconomics, it's about income, it's about having renters and homeowners. If you look at when meetings are held, there's many things about the functioning of City Hall that includes many people, and I think that part of these greater issues that we're seeing across the city about equity of services relates a lot to how and who has been sitting at the table. And so for me, I'd like to see fresh folks step up. I think, Mayor Soglin, he has been in office on and off for 40 years. He's the common denominator of who's coming to power, who makes the decisions, who sits at the table. And so I think it's very important that at this juncture in our city's point, we get new and different folks to the table.
I would say first, it's our true inequality and opportunity gaps that we have in our community. 3/4 of our students are African American students in the Madison School District live in poverty, and half of them graduate on time compared to their counterparts. We look at it, and right now, as of today, 1,000 students at one point were homeless while going to the Madison School District. And this year, we're on pace to once again break that record. We have serious issues with inequalities and the opportunity gaps within City Hall. Really, that represent within our own city. You look at how we can cross and find solutions by working together, and that's going to come to by empowering community leaders, that they can feel like they have a voice when they come up with suggestions, that we can actually see them implemented inside our doors at City Hall. It comes to making sure that there's affordable child care for every single resident, to make sure that we have public transportation lines, that every single person that's looking for work can find work at every single hour. And it's making sure that we have an equitable workplace that's promoting good paying jobs, everything from entry-level positions on way up. And second, it's about how we manage our growth. And I look at the city of Madison as a member of the Plan Commission, and I've seen where the true fights happen, both for neighbors and developers. See, what I've seen on the Plan Commission, our community leaders don't know what they're going to get with a development. We don't know if a plan, if a neighborhood plan is going to be followed by our Plan Commission, or someone's going to try to rewrite the rules. What we don't know by developers is if whose rules that you're going to have to play by, City Hall's or someone else's. We've seen projects that are delayed. And as a good friend explained to me, it's this stress within City Hall, the unpredictability, that you really don't know what's going to happen. This is an exciting time to be in our downtown. We're going to have over 2,000 young professionals moving into our city. We're going to start seeing the changes of Epic and other communities, and this is going to really change how Madison moves forward. But finally, it's how we're making smart investments into our future. How are we looking at internet access? How are we looking at our streets? How are we making sure that we're making smart investments in transportation that's not going to reflect a city of the last 5 years, but one of the next 30?
Well, you guys hear me? Well, number one, I think one of the number one issue is we need strong fiscal management. We need strong fiscal management in our city. We look at our debt is going out of control. The issue of debt affordability and the ability to be able to connect debt to our city growth. We have to plan. We have to be ready to plan. And we need strong fiscal people behind us to make sure we can do these things. So I want to create an office of performance analysis to help our city council. I want to empower the city council. And I know that might sound wild because a lot of people want the power, but I think the way you gain power is giving up power. And what we want to do is empower the city council, because if you work 8 hours and you sleep 8 hours, you only got 8 hours left to govern. And if you got a kid and family, how hard is it for you to study all the issues, a package this big? I served 3 terms on the county board, and I know. So what I want to do is Office of Performance Analysis will prepare our city council members and give them a head start on the analysis of the big issues that's happening. The second thing I think is a problem is, we know, everybody knows, these racial disparities is just out of control. So we got to deal with racial disparities. But that's all tied. All this stuff moves into downtown. Downtown is growing so big that eventually there's going to be so much demand, and it's going to be open not just till 5 o'clock, 18 hours. We're looking like, and there's going to be such density. So what we want to do, we have to prepare for that. And through our racial disparities, we can create that hot dog to the bun. We can have services that we can get away from this retail leakage. Because a lot of people that I know go to Milwaukee or Chicago to buy things. We can put African-American stores down there, minority stores, and we can build businesses and other stores all together. And my third thing I would say is the problem everybody knows, it's housing. There's the money. Housing, okay? Housing is affordable housing and homelessness. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Like Scott said, 1,000 kids, these are our babies. 1,000 kids, and I have a plan. I have a plan, and I have set a target that I will get 200 of these kids in housing in my first 100 days of my administration. And that's bold. Now, we done heard everybody talking about disparities for years. People talk about, no, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this. But all you gotta do is just check the record. Check Richard Brown's record. I've been working on these issues for years. And we hold the line, it all rolls together. Hold the line on taxes, we can do some things. We can build our downtown, which is coming up real soon. And we're gonna have so much traffic and so much things going on downtown that demand is gonna be there. Thank you.
And this question is, what is your opinion on the importance of public input? And how do you plan on developing a process that engages the public on city issues?
Well, if Madison's known for one thing, it's certainly having a robust and active and engaged citizenry coming out to council meetings, having spoken from many, many late night council meetings. You know, one of the things I looked at and getting to sort of take a step away this last year and travel and see other cities and talk with other elected officials was to see how much is out there right now that really we should be looking to that's not happening. One of the things that I think we really need to do, and what's really lacking right now, is we have a lot of voices at the table. I want to make sure that we have a balance of voices at the table to ensure that we have folks who are maybe different than the folks who can make it down on a weekday at 4:30 in the afternoon to testify at a committee meeting, a council meeting. I would really like to see City Hall build a citizens portal to City Hall that you can tag issues that are important to you, that you can easily contact your elected officials. We do not today have a CRM or like a client system. So if you call City Hall because you want to know what's going on in front of the sidewalk, you have no idea of knowing where your ticket is with the folks within the building. And we can really work to improve that. One thing I've seen Pittsburgh do is they've started using Google Docs that you can log on to propose legislation and register your comments and give suggestions. I think that that would be very helpful for folks who perhaps have small children at home that can't make it down to register. I'd like to see better access for signups. It's always kind of a mad dash a couple minutes before meetings for folks grabbing for forms, and I think that there's more that we could do. You know, it's going to Carnegie Mellon for my master's degree, doing a degree in public policy and management. It's really interesting to see the systems and the data systems that we could be implementing. I'll also put in a plug and say, for public input, this should be fun. And so much of government and our meetings at City Hall get really acrimonious, and I think it's important to engage citizens in a positive manner. One thing I did as alder was I had a tenants night where I had the building inspection head, police, fire come down and had an opportunity for tenants to just come with their pictures of their apartments. We had cookies, we tried to organize a kickball team, that didn't work too well, but try to get people engaged and bring City Hall to them. I think that that's really important. More and more, there's an expectation of functioning in real time. And Michael Johnson was sitting in the back here. I'm seeing frequently real-time conversations on Facebook about meetings that are going on. I think we need to do better at capturing that. People are watching on City Channel, they're logging online, and so there's a lot that we can do to really ensure that we're getting that broad base of citizen input into City Hall in a modern way and in a way that we have a record of for open records purposes. So I think that that's a few of the things that I had listed here, but I think there's a lot of opportunity.
I go back to actually a meeting we had last night, and this is about a car sharing program that we're looking to bring downtown. What the program would be is you'd be able to rent a car and either using a mobile device similar to a B-cycle, you would be able to pick up a car on a street in our downtown. This is a program that's in Denver, Milwaukee, in Washington, D.C. Probably one of the bigger decisions that would happen in our downtown and really impact real ramifications for neighborhood parking. We had, I think, 5 members of the public at that one meeting last night. See, I would actually see that we don't have enough public input in any way at City Hall. We don't have our citizens testifying at the length that we need to. And you look to figure out why is that. Are we putting out our information in real time? Are we putting out accurate information? Do residents know if they care about an issue, how do you actually find out what's going on in my backyard? As a council member, I made a few different changes. I said, what happens instead of a leaflet you're getting about a new building project? I just said, let's put it in color. Let's put a picture of a building and simplify the question and say, this is a development that's going in your backyard. What do you think about it? Come here to testify. And sure enough, we had a few more people show up. But really what we found out is I had more people come up to me in the hallways and in my building saying, here's my thoughts on this new construction project. We need to be taking City Hall a little bit outside of City. We have to be looking for solutions outside of City Hall, moving meetings into our community. If we have an issue that's going to affect South Madison, let's have that meeting in South Madison. If we're having a big issue online and we're looking to solicit input, let's not only collect the input online, but let's listen to that feedback. We've started down that process. We had a program called Idea Scale. And what Idea Scale happened was we solicited every individual in the community to say, solicit your ideas for the budget. But when the budget time came around, no one actually even referenced that as different priorities. What we need to do is seriously start listening to our constituents, not only showing that we care what your feedback is, but that City Hall wants to have that conversation and having it at all hours of the day.
Well, first, let me talk about what I did a while ago. I created a radio station called Heart and Soul and Let's Go to Church. And the whole purpose was to engage the minority community, but not only downtown, with just everyone. And actually, it was connected everywhere. We had people come in. But when I did Let's Go to Church, I started connecting with pastors all over the city. And that's when I came up with this idea that, you know, when we connect with these pastors, this faith-based partnership, and then you guys know I want to talk about this faith-based partnership, And what it is it's not favoring one religious group or another one, or a secular group over another non-secular group. What it is it's just grabbing people who work on behalf of our community. And you know, I want to help them. And no one is closer to our community than these organizations. They work with them. And you know, we can do things like, through these faith-based organizations, we can do things like help people with job training. We can do a lot of things, and we can prepare them for this boom that's coming on, that's going to come downtown, in downtown Madison. Eventually, in downtown Madison, this boom is going to come because there's the supply of people that's coming. They've just built, what is it, the hub had like 390-something people that's in there, mixed use. And you're going to see a lot of these mixed use things. So that's how we're going to engage them. We're going to bring people in, and we're going to get all the pastors. You know, we're setting up something. It's not final yet, but on the 10th, we're having a round table with I think we got a bunch of pastors from around the city. And what we're going to do is we're bringing them together. We already got dialogue. And I've already been in dialogue. So what we're going to do is just kick it up. And we're going to connect to the community. And these are the people that are close. And these are the people that are already helping our communities already. No one's closer to our communities than the faith-based organizations that's there. You look at organizations like Roadhouse, Grace Episcopal, that's providing all these services. And what we want to do is we want to organize these services together so we can do better things. And I got a plan that will put economic development, and then when we talk about diversity, we got something, I know there's something to ask about diversity, one of these questions. And this is going to grow, and we're going to grow our city together. And our thing is one Madison, one future. So we're going to bring everybody together, this faith-based organization.
There's some great ideas that have been brought forth already. I think that one essential component, and it has been mentioned, is internet. The internet is an amazing tool for communicating across any distance and any amount of information. I think that if we improve internet access, and I know that this is something that I'm not the only one speaking about, that we can really get a lot more people online in our city who we currently don't have access by setting up a city Wi-Fi service. And I also think that we should be setting up a cloud data storage network so that we can kind of control our own access here in Madison. And the city's web portal is actually quite robust at the moment. There's a lot of information there, and there's a great deal of interaction that it allows. I think getting it into people's hands will make the difference. Now, I think that one way that we can really set things up is by working together with the Madison School District. I think that people at the schools, they have their finger on the pulse of what's really going on in the community, and they have the greatest connection to members of the community because everybody is invested and everybody cares about what's going on with their kids. And so I think if Madison were to partner a bit more with the school district in terms of getting the word out about major new projects and things which will affect everyone, that we can achieve a higher or a greater reach. Another thing is, it's an issue that I saw occur just a few months ago, where a community neighborhood association, their input was presented during a city council meeting about a new development that was going up, and despite despite their plea to have the proposal amended, have it changed a bit because it was going beyond the strictures set by the community or the neighborhood association for many years. That plea was ignored, and they kind of took away some. And in that one stroke, they set a precedent for ignoring the input of neighborhood associations across the city. And so I would like to do something to move forward to kind of have provisions that would strengthen the input of the community in a very real way. I don't know if some of my fellow candidates here or one candidate was sitting on the board, but I'm sure that he voted with his heart. But anyway, so those are a few ideas.
What is your approach to addressing public safety and behavior issues in places like Upper State Street, University Avenue, and the City County Building?
Well, far and away, Madison is a safe community, but we do have pocket issues that we need to address. And in the terms of State Street itself, I break it into two, possibly three different categories. First, and we'll answer these questions later, we do have an issue with particularly chronic homeless individuals on State Street. And these are individuals who have been in this community for much longer than, in some cases, we have. These are individuals who don't cause major issues, are primarily harmless, but do reside on State Street because they have nowhere else to go. We see these individuals in front of City Hall right now because they feel safer in that location than anywhere else. That issue needs to be addressed with permanent housing, and we can talk about that, and we will talk about that in another question. But the second issue becomes a much more daunting one, and this is one of the transient populations on State Street. These are individuals who don't have the same community ties. These are individuals primarily who actually threaten our Madison homeless individuals and actually do pose a public safety risk to our community. We need to be talking about strong enforcement to make sure that the Madison Police Department has the resources to actually ensure that the transient individuals are not impacting the way of life here downtown. We see this regularly with transient individuals also as taking advantage of students, taking advantage of others. When you start talking about other issues, I remember exactly where I was when I heard that there was a shooting on University Avenue, right outside of my district. I can think of what the community response needed to be to make sure that we had groups like Mentoring Positives, make sure that there's individuals that University Avenue is a safe place, but primarily it comes back to creating a safe atmosphere, a vibrant atmosphere that's more than just liquor downtown. It's making sure that we have a variety of establishments. Downtown is a great place to be. This is a place where we're seeing people move into, but we need to be diligent on our safety concerns in our central core.
So probably you guys say, wow, you've done everything. I've been a police officer, a reserve police officer in Leesville, Louisiana. When I was in the military, I went to work in my military duty, and then when I got off, I became a reserve police officer. We had to do all the training, everything, all the duties of a regular officer. We had to go through all the background check, everything. I want to say that. I also was a prison guard. I worked 5 years as a federal prison guard when I came here to Wisconsin, while I worked on my degree in accounting from the University of Wisconsin. So I've done a lot of things. So my background is in criminal justice. I think when I went to college and I went to Marshall University to play football. When I went to college, I majored in criminal justice. So I just want to get that background a little bit so you guys know I got a clue. So anyway, and I'm not trying to be funny, I just want to let you know that. We need an inpatient treatment facility. We got a revolving door in and out of the jail. We need an inpatient treatment facility. A lot of the problems that we have is people are either mentally ill or they have drug and alcohol problems. We got to address that. We got to address that. I work for the controller's office in the county execs. I'm a systems accountant. I have a relationship with the county. I have a relationship with the city. I have a relationship with the state. I worked in the state. We can do better. That's one of the things. One of the things we'll do is we can increase enforcement by instituting the reserve police force. And there's a whole lot of levels you do it. And a lot of people might have flags that come up, but just check it out. There's a lot of different levels. Maybe we can put more officers on the street. Density is going to increase in State Street. That's a good thing. Go to New York. Go to a major city. Where there's density, there's safety. And it's a good thing because it means jobs. And jobs is going to keep the bad guys. Like I said, you work 8 hours, you sleep 8 hours. How much time do you got to act a fool? It's just realistic. So what we want to do is we want to give jobs. We want to take care of things, and we want to make sure that we do all the things that we need to make our downtown safe. One of the other things I want to do is I want to offer city government I want to give the employees 4 hours a month volunteer time. And that volunteer time might mean they might opt to pick up paper on State Street. So that's more people in the areas where you have problems at. A cleaner place is a safer place. Let's keep it clean, let's keep it safe, and we can do a good job. We can fix these issues. Oh, we have the will. I mean, we have the know-how, we just gotta have the will.
The issues of safety in the downtown really boil down to issues of poverty, issues of mental illness, and issues of addiction. I think that until we can find a way to make Madison work for everybody and create the opportunities which are kind of a broad spectrum rather than just focusing on certain areas, then we may continue to see these. I think that addressing the problem of drug addiction in particular, and that would include alcohol addiction. Alcohol is a drug as well. What is the source of addiction? Many people think that they say that it's a chemical dependence, it's some sort of chemical dependence in the brain. It's habit, but really we know that actually addiction happens when you don't have a strong connection, you don't feel a strong connection to your community, and you don't feel the support net, you don't feel that it's there, and it's something that that we can really work to deal with better by kind of creating infrastructure for support, and creating the facilities which are needed, or converting existing facilities to provide for people who are dealing with homelessness and dealing with maybe they haven't had such a great, such an easy time with it. Now, I'd like to point out that the prevalence of mental illness in inner city communities, and this is PTSD, is in those inner city communities. Psychologists have found that the rates of PTSD are equal to the communities which are soldiers coming back to active duty. It is traumatizing to be poor. It is traumatizing to live on the bottom. And it creates a whole set of problems that may not be recognized as coming from that. We have this tendency to blame the individual and to look at the surface without considering the whole picture. And so it's unfortunate that our society has been set up and the social net has been removed to the extent that it has. Overall, my policies are aimed at reducing and bringing back the social net and bringing back the supports for individuals which have been taken away over the course of several decades. I think that many other people are reaching these same conclusions, and the conclusion that it's time to really face these issues head on and to look for robust solutions, solutions that involve many, not just government, not just the private sector, but really everyone.
Yeah. Well, it's a loaded question. There's a lot there. One of the things I think is really important is about, you have folks congregating, if we're talking about Upper State Street or the city-county building, and they don't have anywhere to go. I have had the Day Resource Center in my district the first year, across the street the second year. This year, the city-county couldn't come together to a solution, and they had to put more resources towards existing service providers. I had a gentleman before the debate come up and talk to me about his experience, and he went for years as an alcoholic not realizing what the resources were out there in the community. I think access and knowledge of the services that exist are very important. On some of the chairs, I handed out a little thing here with some bullet points of ideas and initiatives. One thing that I've thought about, and I looked at the end of my term on the council when County Exec Parisi put me on the homeless issues task force for the county, was we have all these service providers, and they all have a different day of the week where you can go here, or on Tuesdays you can go there. There's no comprehensive data that if you do not have a lot of resources, you're not quite sure where to look, it's not easily advertised. So I'd like to see the city and the county work together with anybody who gets money so that we have a comprehensive Google Calendar so that you can easily see, here's what's going on today, here's where your options are to go. I think that when I have a whole lot here, and I would say, Richard, the mall maintenance staff, I feel that they do a good job cleaning up State Street. I think we have to look at the situation. We want to create better environments. Part of that might be the built environment, but part of it also is about creating that environment and access to information. One thing, and then so to get to University Avenue, I've been very concerned and sitting on the Transit and Parking Commission, and there's a little QR code, you can go right to the issues site. There's an initiative for a late night circulator. I'm very convinced that we absolutely need to have late night transit options. Part of what happens on University Avenue late at night is you get a lot of people congregating, and they're all running for cabs, and it creates a lot of stress and a lot of chaos, and people have been drinking. The other thing that I'll say also is I think that the city and UW Police Department, I'd like to see them sit down. This came up at the College Dems Forum the other night, but looking at sexual assault and around that campus community about how that response is. I think the other thing that you'll notice on the sheet that I listed here is just we need a day shelter. We need a comprehensive day shelter. There is a small little map of my idea, and we will get to that farther down the questions.
Thank you. What is your approach to economic development and how it affects the quality of life for Madison citizens?
I served 3 terms on the county board. One of the terms I chaired personnel finance, and when I chaired personnel finance, I did commission an economic development team, task force, I think that's what we called it, economic development task force. So I do care about economic development, and I understand. One of the things we got to work on is there's a 3-phase approach the way I look at it. We got to look at retention. We got to retain the clientele that we have, and so we got to have policies where we can help the current business owners. I had a friend that used to own a store on, I actually went to college when he majored in marketing, I majored in accounting. He had a store on State Street called Baracas. He had it was an Eastern African restaurant, and he had to move because they remodeled the place. Well, we got to help these guys because he's not there now, and that was a minority business, and he had a good business. Not just was a minority business; it was a good business. So we got to retain the current businesses. So my first approach is retention. The next approach is attraction. We got to attract new tenants. Now that's probably new businesses, and that's probably the hardest to attract. But if we make our city like it is going to be, with the downtown vibrant the way it's going to be, I can't wait. Every day that I walk down State Street, I see more and more and more and more. So we continue to build our city like that. We'll attract businesses. We'll start attracting business because it's going to be the hottest thing. And pretty soon, there's going to be so many people walking up and down on State Street, and these businesses are going to be open until, not quitting at 5 o'clock, they're going to go until 10 o'clock. You're going to be able to get your hair done at 10 o'clock at night. People are going to be doing their laundry at 12 o'clock at night. State Street is going to be hot, and it's going to be an economic development zone, so we got to get training. We got to train people to be prepared to come down there. So economic development goes with training and employment. And so we have a plan for training and employment too. The other thing is creation. We got to create new businesses, and that goes hand in hand with attraction. We attract them, but we can create them. So we got to help. I think what we need to do is develop more business incubators. I like the way the research part works. So we gotta start creating, and we'll do better growing our own and creating our own. And we can start in high school. We can start in elementary, talking to people. It's about school, talking to them about businesses they can create. So my approach to economic development is more, let's build our own. Let's grow our own here, and we can do this.
My approach may be somewhat similar and somewhat different at the same time. I think that it's important for us to consider what the character of Madison is and how we can go forth preserving that character while also encouraging businesses which will add to it. I think that I have to disagree with Mr. Brown on the point that the development boom that we are seeing at this moment is entirely a good thing. I think that what we're seeing now is something that's happened in other cities before, and it has caused those cities to become a much less livable place for many people. You can look to San Antonio in Texas or to San Francisco for examples of this. I think we need to be growing the businesses that we have here already. We need to be ensuring that they can continue to do business, and we need to kind of attract more cottage industry, and we need to look to alternatives to the tech and medical and financial and government sectors. We need to start looking at business models which will be good for the people in our communities which don't have access and don't have the privilege that will get them a proper education to get into those high kind of very affluent jobs. And so I'm proposing, in addition to the public banking model, which will do a lot in terms of ensuring the safety of the businesses that do already exist, specifically by assuming responsibility for commercial mortgages in town, keeping those mortgages in town, and really making it a safer place for people to grow and feel more comfortable doing so. But also, I'd like to encourage businesses or the growth of urban agriculture. I think that it's something that's very big right now, and we're going to see a kind of an urban ag explosion in the next few years all across the country. I mean, this is something that we can see. It's a very high cost to import all of the food that you eat into your city, and it's something Wisconsin should be very proud of, and is very proud of its history as an agricultural center. So I think that we can kind of take advantage of the new technologies which are available now. I'm sure that some people in this room have heard of aquaponics. You have fish on the bottom, vegetables on the top, and the fish provide the fertilizer for the vegetables, and the vegetables give the fish. And it's really a beautiful, just the best kind of closed, self-sufficient system. And I think that Madison can be the same, a self-sufficient and sustaining system. And so that's the kind of business and development that I would like to see personally.
Well, I think as I sat and had a lot of really fascinating, interesting, complex proposals come across my desk as alder, one of the things I always tried to do was work to yes, and try to sit down with folks when they come with ideas, whether it's young folks who are just looking to open a business. I had some gentlemen who wanted to open an electric scooter shop and had some issues with zoning, to really big projects. I think it's important to sit there, talk with folks, understand what their goals are, and work through what those issues will be so that they have a realistic expectation of what the process and path ahead is. I think that that's really important. And I ask tough questions. I want to know all the details. I'm a big policy wonk, and I want to have all the pieces there. I think what's important right now for Madison and development is that we work for balance. Epic is a beautiful, blessed company to our community, but they are growing at a very quick rate, and it is having a lot of ancillary spin-off effects in a lot of other industries. So I think that it's really important that as we look at economic development, we're looking citywide, we're looking across folks. Marcia Rummel and I went to bat for the grocery store on East Washington Avenue that's under construction, and there was a battle back and forth between Paul and me and kind of Marcia, trying to get that grocery store for the neighborhood. And one thing we said was, having those grocery store jobs are very important to our community. I was not a STEM major. I was a liberal arts major. We have a lot of liberal arts majors, and we have a lot of folks who didn't go to college. And so we need to ensure that we're creating opportunities across education and brackets. I think we want to play to our strengths, and that might be the food economy. I think clearly if you look at the Bureau of Labor Statistic data, that's actually one of the areas in which our industry sector is really growing and thriving. And I think we need to work to incubate. You don't just land Epic overnight. There is good spin-off coming off in Nordic, and then you look at BOP, right? Something that started very small and grew here. So I think it's important for the city to really create those opportunities. I have an idea to partner with the IT department and the library to create basically a lab so that you have access to computer software and equipment, especially if you're I was a photographer, and having access to that equipment when I no longer had access to the university really hindered my ability to keep up to date on my portfolio. And so I think that there's a lot that the city can do, because the quality of life to Madison citizens, economic opportunities run out to the suburbs, that's going to create a lot of issues for us here in the city. And so we need to ensure that we're creating good opportunities across the income spectrum across the city. Thank you.
So, I was a member of the Economic Development Committee on City Hall. Started my own business, actually originally out of dorms. Our first company 7 years ago out of Chadbourne Hall, and now we have offices by James Madison Park with 22 employees. And this is a tech company. And as a liberal studies major, a political science major, I created a tech company. And what we learned here, and what I was seeing in the tech community just 2-3 years ago, is if you wanted to start a company, we watched my friends go to Silicon Valley. I watched some of the best ideas go to Chicago, to Boston. We said, how do we actually keep and retain these companies so the next epic is still built here in Madison? So what we did was create a project called Starting Block. This is going to be a 55,000 square foot accelerator going on to in the Capitol East District. We're going to make sure that we retain these companies here in Madison. You know, when you look at what our TIF policy is, our TIF policy right now focuses almost entirely on construction and development. You know, when you start thinking about what kind of jobs are created out of that policy, what kind of living wage jobs that have entry levels for all Madisonians, you can think about what what our community should look like when it comes to economic development. Because we're going to be facing some major struggles here in the short term. We see the cuts that are happening to the UW. We know that the state jobs are becoming more and more scarce, and the good paying ones are going away. You know, these are things that threaten the way of life that really threatened Madison's existence over the last 50 years. So we need to be looking towards the future. We need to be trying to think of ways that our economy can create a place where anybody would want to create a company and keep a company here in town. We need to be thinking about the culture of our community. We need to be thinking about the music scene of our community. We need to make sure that someone who has a tech background or just simply can not only move to our downtown but reside in a Madison home, and make sure that someone who works in our downtown shops and restaurants can also afford to live inside this community. You know, but lastly, when it comes to working with business, it means we have strong communication between our business leaders. What we can't have are individuals that are scolding our business community. We can't be lecturing our business community. We need to be working aside to make sure that a shop that's been here for the last 30 years, that we can help them keep another 30 years of existence. I think that's how true economic development occurs. It's how I've been able to build my company, and I really believe that we can be forward-thinking in our future generations.
How familiar are you with the efforts to address the needs of homeless Madisonians, including the efforts to establish a new day shelter?
I'm actually quite familiar with the needs of our homeless residents. I worked on the square at 18 North Carroll Street for over 2 years, in the last few, and I interacted with these individuals on a daily basis. You know, oftentimes I was angry at them. I was angry at myself some days, and other days I was angry at the city. How is this happening? What aren't we doing, and what can we be doing? And you know, it's a complex question, and ultimately, you know, it always comes back to poverty. There's a great disparity in wealth between those who have, you know, the most and the rest of us. And you know, you've all heard the 1%, 99% analogy, and I'm pretty sure most everyone in this room will be in the 99% at the end of the day. But well, speaking to, I suppose I should answer the question about the shelter. I've been following the progress of the day shelter and its the continuing battles that have been waged over it. I would like to see it done, you know, to see it implemented and created immediately. It would be one of my very first priorities. I think that we have vacant properties that the city owns around the city that could be opened up. I know that there's other vacant properties owned by private landlords which I believe that the city could work with in order to get facilities built and in place, which would have comprehensive services that could be rendered, which would act as day shelter, night shelter, and let's face it, we need a wet shelter too, because if you're gonna if these guys who are having problems staying sober get turned away at the door on a freezing night, then we could wake up the next morning and another one of our community members will be lost, and I see that as unacceptable. So, aside from even building new facilities, I think that we already have the space. It is here, and it's just a matter of the political will to use it, to utilize it.
I would say very familiar, having Salvation Army in my district, a number of service providers. The Bubbles Project was over at the laundromat in my district, and would do laundry at the same time that the folks from the Bubbles Project were in. So these are issues that I've worked with directly and seen the evolution of over the last few years. All right, so this is the kind of show and tell portion of the evening. So I handed this out. Part of stepping down from the council and being prepared to come and run for mayor was to get out and see other places and see what's going on and be able to have that perspective on the city and take a step back from District 2 and look at the city's issues all across the city. And the shelter and what I saw at Salvation Army was really what made me start thinking about running for mayor, because I would have folks out on the sidewalk and go, what's going on? What's the situation? I have a comprehensive idea, and it's an idea, so let's talk about it. Let's have that conversation about how we can start to build community services to serve those who are homeless directly in the great, awesome, hot downtown neighborhood of the Capital East District. I very much disagree with the development history of the city. Over the last 40 years, we tend to push homeless services, social services to where it's politically expedient on the edge of the city. And if you look at the situation right now and the back and forth between the town of Madison and the county board, this is another classic example of that. So let's bring it to home. Let's put a shelter and a day shelter where folks who need it most can most easily access it. I don't support having Salvation Army consolidate and push out to Darbo. And I've had a really great conversation with the major and with some of their board members over the years about what their strategic plans are. I think we need to have more of that. I think that we really need to look at some other ideas, and one of the things I really like is what New York City is doing with their municipal ID, to really have access and trackable access and records to who's using services and to be able to provide those forms of identification. Folks who are homeless are struggling so much just to get those basic needs met. And the city needs to step up. It's time for us to stop sort of blaming the county or saying it's their job. It's all of our jobs, and we need to start working together to get that to happen. I also think that we need to work, like I mentioned previously, that community calendar for services. A lot of what I've seen are folks who are really struggling with only a few minutes left on their cell phone trying to figure out, is there a meal across town or not? So I think we need to work very hard at that. And I'll just say, I think this is totally doable. The fact that we haven't gotten a solution up to this point, my urban theory professor told me, oh, well, Pittsburgh has 50 homeless folks a night. And I said, well, let me tell you about Madison, and you should have just seen her jaw drop. So we have so much work to do. We need to look to other communities and models, and I'm convinced we can get this done and do it in 2 to 3 years. We can have solutions.
And it's been on the forefront of the conversations that have been going on in the City Council. And as a member of the City County Liaison Committee, I've seen what's going on right outside of our City Hall. But what I would say is, if it was that easy, someone would have done it already. We have serious challenges, and we have been working to try to find a solution here. Now, what I would say is we need to start first talking about what the low-hanging fruit is. When you look at having lockers and spaces available, particularly for homeless individuals who right now carry around all their personal possessions, we need to be working with the private sector and the nonprofits to find locations immediately. We need to be looking at, instead of studying, a continual study of where bathrooms are going to be. We need to have bathrooms available in our downtown for any resident. But really what we need is a comprehensive service, one location housed under one roof. So if you're looking for a men's resource center, it can be exactly adjacent to mental health treatment facilities and also to substance abuse facilities. That needs to be a single location, and we need to be able to work alongside our partners at the county and within the community to find a place downtown that's near public transportation to make that happen. You know, we have the ability to end chronic homelessness in the city of Madison by 2016. Right now, we are starting to work down the right path using things like Housing First. But we need to start going above and beyond in these conversations to make sure that we're all on the same page, to coalesce resources, to make sure that any individual who needs a shelter can find one. What this is going to take is a larger community conversation. But really it comes down to, do we have the political will? Are we willing to work together, put differences aside, and make a center occur in our downtown? I think we do.
This is something that's really, really dear to my heart. Anybody that know anything about housing in Madison should know me. Anyone that provides services, any nonprofit, I bet they had me on speed dial because I owned over 120 affordable units in Madison, Wisconsin. And it was a struggle. I mean, it practically destroyed me. And so my experience in housing, I learned a lot. I learned so much. I learned the cause. I learned the people that was homelessness. I understood, and a lot of people that are homeless now used to rent from me. I've been beat up. I've been assaulted. And I still stayed there and helped because I couldn't kick out the babies. The parents could go, but then we had to keep the babies. So I kept them all, and it destroyed me. But I bounced back. I'm back. You know what I'm saying? And it didn't really, what I'm saying is that I know how tough it is, and I know my community, our community. That's our community. And a lot of people want to say, oh, them are not our kids because they don't look like us. But we have 1,000 homeless kids in the Madison Metropolitan School District. And we have to do something about it. We can talk a lot about it. So we talk about the homeless shelter. I work for the county, so I understand. And we talk about all the people I've dealt with, everyone, tenant resource. I've done all the things to try to keep people in housing. And I learned a lot. I have a plan. I have a plan that we can, 2016, that's aggressive, ending homelessness. But I have a plan that we can really, really help people. And it's a plan that stands on solid grounds. We can fix this. And we come together and we partnership. And it has a lot to do with our faith-based organization and Housing First, because I know that I have a relationship with the realtors, I have a relationship with the apartment association, and I can work out a deal and we can house these people. We can help this, we can solve these problems. And it hasn't, and anyone that every day that I go to work and I walk past the pile of stuff in front of the city county building, I feel like the guy that walked past when he was a good Samaritan. And today I'm running for office because I'm stopping and doing something about this homeless problem.
We'll give each of the candidates 3 minutes to give any closing remarks, and you can address any of the comments that you heard tonight or any of the issues that we didn't address that you'd like to talk about, or any other closing remarks you might have.
Well, Jeff, thanks. I'd like to thank you and Dan and Carol Ann and everyone who put this event on. I'll get the perfunctory things out of the way here first. I hope you'll go visit my website. It's bridgetformadison.com. We've been working hard to get the issues up on the page so you can see the initiatives and get a sense of the ideas. I've worked very hard this last year and a half. It's been offline, trying to work for that city's future, for our city and looking at what we can do, taking it to the next level. And so there's so many ideas and initiatives, pragmatic, simple ideas that can be very cost effective, that will put the city in a good foot moving forward. I think what's really unique about me is, and with all the folks up here, we're going to presume Mayor Soglin makes it through the primary. So then it's, okay, so who to vote for? If you're not going to vote for Mayor Soglin, who up here should earn your vote? I think I'm in a very unique position to really understand both the past of the city and the future of the city. Having grown up here, my family's from here, anytime I got a question, I'd call up my mother and say, Mom, why is this the way it is? What's going on? Or going down to the Historical Society, having represented that original core of the city to really understand why are we the way we are. And then moving from that, so what can we do moving forward in the future? I want to work for you. The reality is that you look at politics, you look at what's going on at the state capitol, the politicians there are not out working for you to bring basic services and bring good things to you as you walk out your door. What I love most about city government is it's fun. It's about parks. It's about wonky things like, you know, parking permit programs. These are real things that affect folks on an everyday life. It's rewarding to come in and help folks. That's why I'm running for mayor, because I am very concerned that we're starting to go down that path. And having worked in Mayor Cheslevich's office and now seeing Mayor Soglin's administration, I've seen two administrations, very different. I tell people apples to zucchini, really. And so I think that it's really, I don't see how another 4 years is going to get us to where we need to be. And if you look at the candidates up here, I think I have the best balance of experience and attitude and formal education to be able to be that next mayor. Because this is a 24-hour job. And so everything is off the table. This is what I'm dedicating myself to do. And I hope that you'll support me. You gotta come out and vote. February 17th, that's election day. We have so many more issues to discuss. I wanna continue this discussion forward because we have libraries and parks and our schools to talk about. So, thank you.
You know, I think about why I got involved in politics in the first place. And it truly was to serve the residents in my own district. There was no other intentions. It was when if someone had an issue, I was there to listen to them. You know, being from the downtown, that was many times tenant-related issues. When someone would say their water isn't running, I decided to say I would pick up that call and I would make sure building inspections is on it. When someone is fearful as they're walking down a street and I get a call to say they don't feel safe in their community, I would respond to that. We have issues in our community, and it comes back to why I enjoy serving, is I just enjoy listening. I enjoy talking through problems and looking for solutions. It's why when I was a member of the city council, within my first 3 years I was elected to leadership. It wasn't because of anything else, but just showing respect to one another. Trying to work together and trying to figure out how we address challenges that in that case faced our council, but face our entire city. There's a lot to love about Madison, because in so many ways we're all on the same team. We're a very generous community. We're a community that cares about one another. But we have some major challenges that are ahead of us. Not only when you read the Race to Equity report, but you see what's upcoming in our city's agenda. What I truly believe is that we can start working together to take on these massive challenges that face our community. That we can all work towards a vision that we can share. And if we're, instead of trying to think of polarization, instead of trying to combat one another, instead of putting neighbors against each other, I think it's time that we can work together to tackle these very big issues that face our community.
First, I want to thank all you guys for coming out to listen to us. And then I want to thank all the candidates. It's not hard to do this. I mean, it's not easy to do this. It's not easy to do this. I mean, it's a lot of work. I work full-time, and I campaign and I keep going. Strong fiscal background, law enforcement background, served 3 terms on the county board, chaired personnel finance. We passed budget 37-0 under my chairmanship. The second budget was 37-1. We had a very split county board. I pulled them together. I can pull people together. That's what I do best. In the community, I coached Southside Radio, the most vulnerable kids in the community. I coached them because I wanted to see that hope in their eye. I want to give them hope. And then I left there after 8 years, and I went and coached the high school football, Gold Pearl Golders. And we won our first game after 27 games. And I gotta admit, I cried when the kids ran out on the field. And that's the way I feel about Madison. I feel that we can do better. I don't know where we're going to go with this campaign. I don't know how people really feel about all the candidates here. But one thing I know is that I struggled and I fought and I got knocked down and I was discriminated against and I got back up and I kept going. And all the disparities that everybody talk about, I went through. So imagine if there was no disparities. Where would I be? I've been working really hard, and what I want is when you know what makes me feel so good about this campaign is when I see one of my kids on the football team. They say, "Oh, that's just Coach Brown. He can do it. We can do it." I'm starting to see hope. I had a kid that got kicked off the football team the first week. Okay, they was gonna kick him off the team. I went and talked to him. The other day, they sent me a paper, a text with a picture of him and another kid that was homeless. They both go on the same cloud next year on a football scholarship. This is what we can do. When we work together for the common good, we're better. We're better. We're all better. I want to address the financial thing in about 10 seconds. My fiscal background, holding the line on taxes, shared services. I want to combine the Dane County Housing Authority and CDA. I bet you save about $500,000.
That's my point.
We can make this budget. We can do it.
And so, and I'm also going to again emphasize, because I don't think a lot of people have had much chance to get exposed to the idea of public banking. So the services that the bank will carry out are as follows. The bank will assume responsibility for commercial mortgages within the city. As I said before, this will insulate us from the ups and downs of the market and from the danger inherent in this derivatives selling, all of these, the Ponzi schemes, et cetera, et cetera. So the other things that the bank can do, it can carry out the function of acting as the city's broker. We will no longer have to go through middlemen in Chicago, and we will no longer be paying premiums to outside firms. It would be a DBA authority. It would be doing business as the city of Madison, and so as such, the interest that was accrued on mortgages and loans would go back to paying for city services. This means that we would no longer need to raise the property taxes every year in order to make up the difference, in order to make up our deficit. This would enable us to close the debt that we currently hold. And as you know, it's growing every year, and a lot of that is thanks to interest that we pay and that we are required to pay on our debt. And this is something that I'll tell you right now, this is not, it doesn't stop at Madison. It's not my plan to stop this here. I think that we need to export this model. We need to talk about it as much as possible, and we need to get other cities on board. I mean, if we could get cities like Milwaukee and larger metropolitan areas to do the same thing, then we can combine our credit. Once the bank gets running, we can create credit for small businesses. We can lend out to businesses and grow the industries that we want to grow, rather than the industries which are attractive right now only to the people who know that they'll get a very large return and this very kind of closed circuit that goes between the corporate America and the major private banks. And And so if we can do this here, if we can lead the way and we can set the example, if we can act as the pace car, then we can lead a social and economic revolution in America. And that is my ultimate goal. I know it sounds ambitious, but I hope that you will admire me for that at least.
Let's thank all of the candidates. On behalf of Capital Neighborhoods in Downtown Madison, Inc., I just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I hope we can continue the dialogue in the weeks and months ahead as we discuss the future of our city. So thank you again. Good night.